Alright, I've reset my indicator, so I am now lined up with the table locking lever, so I know that's dead center of the saddle. I've also moved to the table surface that's a little bit more towards the middle. I'm not sure whether that's going to make a difference or not, but I figured I'd do it that way. And I'm just going to bring this up so it's zeroed. Oh, just the hair. There we go. That's 0. And I'm at, just to show you where I am, I've got the edge of the table is lined up with the edge of the saddle. That's my starting point. I think I can run it all the way over to that far on the other side without too much trouble. Alright, you can hear it getting much easier to move the table. You can hear the motor is freeing up. And that's because I'm about at the halfway point. So instead of having all this weight, cantilever it over this end, starting to put some of the weight. No, I'm not at the halfway point. What am I thinking? I've only got 8 inches over on the right, and I got 19 on the left. And I'm out about 1,000, just over 1,000. All right, that might be closer. 16 1/4, 10 1/4. Turn that down a little bit. See what that is. 13 1/4, 13 3/8, close enough. That's my midpoint. All right, so it went minus 1.5 thousandths. Oh, it looks like it's coming back up. Okay. If anything, it's minus 1/2 thou. Actually, it's minus 1,000th. And I'm on this end. I'm now the end of the table. Edge of the table is flush with this end of the saddle. So I think I'm gonna have to double check, but I think that's pretty good. I'll put that tolerance up on the screen when I'm editing the video. All right, now that I've double checked my my jib tightness, and I'm satisfied with that, I made sure the jib was locked. I'm turning my attention to this left-hand end of the table. This is that spanner nut. I tighten this up. How tight this goes, I don't know. So how tight is this supposed to be? I don't know. I didn't want to over-tighten it, so I snugged it up, and then when I got it snug, I tapped it a little bit further just so I can line up one of these metal tangs on that special keeper washer, so that I can bend that keeper washer tang. You like how I just make up names for stuff? Anyways. Into one of these grooves, and that should help keep this from loosening up over time, hopefully. So now I think I'm all set to put this cover on this side. Guess I'll put the 2 screws in that I held off putting it earlier. Those in there. This will be a lot easier to put in now. The handle off. All right, next. This dial assembly goes on next. There we go. Next goes on this long sleeve. Oh, that seems so tight. It's gonna burn it. Thought that other one went out flush. Yep, that's right, cause just like on the other side, I watched my video when I took it apart, and just like on the other side, this big brass bushing takes up this space on the end here before this nut, specially designed nut and countersunk cap screw goes on here. Now, again, by having that in there, that defeats the ability of being able to unlock these handles and let them freewheel. But that's the way the mill was put together when I got it. And maybe when I get a chance, I'll email Keith Rucker and ask him if he could tell me whether or not his are that way, because I think I noticed that he has almost an identical drive unit on his mill as I do. You know, maybe it's just that has something to do with the fact that when they convert this, when they add on that drive, that they have to kind of take away that feature of the freewheeling handles. What's nice about the freewheeling handle is, you see how this has got a thicker part to the handle right here. What happens is, if this was in the freewheel position, this thicker part right here is heavier. So, and this is where the handle's supposed to be that's broken off. That part with the handle and the heavier part, gravity would cause that to just kind of want to sit down here low. And even if it was turning, it would kind of like stay down there. And what's nice about that is, if you got the drive on and if it's not freewheeling and this is spinning fast and you get your hand near there, you know, not so much on this side because your control's on the other side there, but you know, having that thing come around and whack your knuckles, that'll wake you up. Imagine there's probably another reason for that design, but it doesn't matter because I don't have that feature on this mill. It's interesting because even this one I have in the front here doesn't do that. The control for the saddle. I'm just tightening up the nut for the saddle because I forgot the handle for the saddle. Got to tighten that nut before. Alright, so like I was saying, you can imagine if you came along and so you can imagine if you get a handle here coming around, you know, whack. That's pretty strong. And that wasn't even top speed, the rapid traverse that really gets spinning. Alright, so I'm going to take a moment here to discuss the way that I'm going to indicate the free play of the jib on the knee on this mill. And the reason why I want to do that is because I watched Keith Rucker's video, and where he put the indicator for the knee measurement of the jib, he actually put it on top of the knee and indicated to the way on the machine. And I believe that's actually incorrect. And here's my thought process, and also I'll tell you what I found in the manual. But anyways, if you think of it, what we're looking at, I want to make sure we understand what we're actually looking at when we're talking about looking at the tightness of the jib or the free play. You got the table here, and imagine this hand is the top of the saddle, and the dovetail ways that are on the top of the saddle, and the table travels like this on it. Okay, and what we're looking at is we're looking at how much the table is able to do this, to move. This is obviously an exaggerated motion, but to move like this. We're not looking at if the table's lifting up off of there. That's essentially because of the shape of the dovetails. If we've got minimum play this way, then this is going to fall into line. If we have excessive play this way, well then yeah, the table can do some of this, which is bad. But what I'm saying is that when we indicate, we're looking at how much this top table is able to move like this on top of here. That's why we mount the base ideally on the saddle and indicate to the side of the table. We're looking at the relationship that this plane right here is moving in and out in relationship to this plane. Same thing with the saddle. When we do the saddle, we're going to indicate, ideally we have the indicator mounted on the knee, and we're going to indicate on the side, or in this case the front, and we're still going to be able to look at that same thing. We're looking at how much, we're taking this whole thing here that I just showed with the table, and we're just moving it 90 degrees. And we're looking at how much this does this. So how much does this whole thing do this? Again, we're looking at a rotational measurement. How much this is able to rotate on top of that. So with the knee, we're looking at the same type of thing, but with the knee, we flip everything up vertical. So this is the back of the machine, okay? Or not the back of the machine, but the ways on the front of the body of the machine. And these are the ways on the back of the knee. And this travels like this. So what we want to look at is we want to look at how much of this is possibly going on. Okay? Not how much of this is going on. Yeah, it's true. If you've got too much of this, you're going to have this. Or if you have this, you probably have too much of this. But this is what we're looking at. So, this is basically the setup that Mr. Rucker had in his video. Keith had it, so he was measuring the relationship by having the indicator mounted on top of the knee here, and then he had it, the base on top of the knee and the indicator on this way right here. And then basically by flexing on this knee, you can see there's a little bit of deflection so on the table. So by pulling up and down on the table, what I'm doing is I'm rocking this whole thing back and forth. So I am looking at that twist I was talking about or trying to explain. Problem is, the way my indicator's set up, what I'm really indicating is I'm indicating how much movement I'm getting this way. So that's reason number one why I think that's not correct. This is a closer approximation to where the manual shows that the indicator should be. They've got the base of the indicator is mounted to the body of the machine, and then they actually show very long arms so that they can get the indicator further out there on the knee, but on the side of the knee, so that that twisting motion will be more visible. So now, if I pull up and down on this, you can actually not see much going on there at all. Alright, so last night I was down here and I was looking at the gib adjustment for the knee, and I tried a couple of different indicator positions, and the indicator position that they talk about in the actual manual is to have the indicator on the side right here. And so the base is attached to the body, and then you would have an arm come down and have the indicator on the side. I tried mounting the indicator on the side and I wasn't really getting much of a reading. I found it was too difficult to actually set it up properly with the type of arms that I have. I think if I had a longer set of indicator stand arms, or maybe one of those flexible ones, I might be able to do it that way. But I settled on this setup right here. This is similar to the way that Keith Rucker set his up when he was checking the knee on his mill. And I had loosened up the jib quite a bit so that I could really get some movement in the thing. And then I started tightening the jib, and you can see that I'm at, I've got a Brown and Sharp best test on there, which kind of gives me a little bit more accuracy, I think. But I'm at about 1.5 to 2 thousandths right now. And before I tighten it any further, I'll tell you what happened last night. Every time I would adjust it, I would then go down and I would tighten the lock on the bottom before checking it. And I got to a point where all of a sudden, when I was turning the locking bolt on the bottom, it would pop and then be real loose again. And I realized what was happening was it was pulling out of the last couple threads. What had happened was this jib is so worn, sort of like with my saddle, it's so worn that I'm actually extending the jib down further than you normally were expected to. So what that causes is this bolt, which is the locking bolt, which is 2 inches long, to have to be backed out a lot further than it normally would. So what's happening is I'm actually backing it out so far that I've only got a couple of threads up inside there at that point, and it pulls out. The other possibility is there may be several threads at the end of the hole up inside there that are bad. So my first thought was, oh no, don't tell me I got the thread just stripped inside that hole. So what I did was I purposely loosened up the jib, ran the knee down so the jib would move up, and then put the bolt back in and found out that it does tighten up just fine. So I realized my problem is that again, because the jib is going so far down that this isn't able to reach up into the hole and get enough threads to really lock in. So a couple of ways I could deal with that. One way would be to remove the jib and shim the jib the way that I shim the jib for the saddle, so that the jib does not have to be so far down in order for it to start tightening up. That's possibility number one. Possibility number two is I could take, this bolt actually goes through that spacer. That spacer is probably about 3/8, maybe a 1/2 inch thick. I could take that spacer and I could grind that spacer down and make it thinner. And that would allow more of this bolt to go up into the hole underneath there. But I decided, instead of doing that, I would see whether or not I could get a longer bolt. So I went to my local hardware store, and of course they didn't have it. They actually did have this bolt, the hex head. This is 3/8 by 24 fine thread. They had this, but the longest one they had was 2 inch, which is what this is. So I had to go to Fastenal and picked up, they don't make a 2 1/4. Next size up is 2 1/2. So I picked up a 2 1/2. So the question's going to be, is this going to be too long? Or is it going to work out just fine? Well, we're about to find out. Okay, so that's locking no problem. So that's good. Now, if this was on the top and it was that extra long bolt and it was sticking out too far, then the little wiper cover would not be able to go in place. But in this particular case on the bottom here, there is no wiper cover present and there are no holes to mount one. So they don't bother putting a wiper cover on the bottom here. It's only on the top. So now that I know that this is going to work, as far as fixing my problem with the locking bolt not being able to grip, I'm going to back this out and unlock it and continue what I was doing last night, which is slowly tightening the top jib and retesting until I get to a point where I feel like I'm confident that I've got a good tightness. Alright, so that's loose now. Alright, just give it a couple little turns. Hopefully there isn't too much glare on the face of that indicator. Okay, that still looks like it's about 1/1000th. It still looks like about 1,000. It feels like it's tightening up now, which means I'm either the jib is either tightening in the dovetail, or I'm up against the locking bolt again, and I'm still getting 1,000. So I got to loosen that up again. All right. Well, at that point right there, I don't know if it's showing up very well, but let me see if I can get a tighter shot. All right, so right there you can see that the needle is deflecting about 1 division. But on this indicator, there are 10 divisions between the 0 and the 5. So what that really means is that 1 division is actually 1/2,000. And I'm satisfied with that right there. I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to lock my bottom jib, recheck it, and then I'm going to leave it alone until I do some tests and see how the mill acts.